you notice it in small moments. A parent who repeats the same story twice in one phone call. A spouse who used to walk beside you, now needing your arm to steady them. A diagnosis that changes everything, or the slow, quiet decline that has no diagnosis at all, just time. Maybe you're the one making the doctor's appointments now, managing medications, making decisions your parent used to make for you. Maybe you're watching the person you promised to love in sickness and in health, and finding out just how hard that promise can be to keep. The late night worry, the guilt over not doing enough, the exhaustion of doing too much, the grief of loving someone who is still here but slipping away a little at a time. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. This is hard. But here's what we also know. You were never meant to carry this alone. There is wisdom for this season. There are people who've walked this road before you and made it through. There is practical help for the questions that keep you up at night. Tonight, we want to offer you exactly that, wisdom and practical resources to help you navigate this journey. Because whatever stage you're in, whether you're just starting to notice the changes, or you're deep in the hardest part of this road, you don't have to go through this alone. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
All right, well, good evening. My name is Tyler. I am a pastor here at Lincoln Glen Church. I have nothing to offer you in terms of wisdom or resources or anything like that. So I'm going to host tonight, but we have a panel of experts who's going to help us through everything. I'm going to ask Evelyn to come on up as well. So we both represent Lincoln Glen Church. We're both on staff here. Evelyn's also on staff. Well, I'll let you explain yourself. Oh, grab your microphone. She'll explain herself, but Evelyn's on staff here with us here, and I'll let her explain her role over at Lincoln Glen Manor as well. You got it? There we go.
Testing. Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Evelyn. I am marketing manager and community experience manager. And so I get the pleasure of getting to meet with your loved ones and getting to know them and integrate them into the community, as well as providing helpful resources via our online platforms. And so that's who I am.
All right. And there's something at the front we want to let everyone know about in case they didn't get to know.
I do. So we are doing a free raffle. So if you haven't turned in your free raffle ticket, raise your hand. And Carol Garza back there, she's going to come by and give you a ticket so that you can get the raffle prize. Can everybody say a big thank you to Katie Cooney from Hand in Hand Senior Participants, because she provided the raffle prize today.
Oh, yeah, so that's great. And then, so we just want to talk why we're doing this. Like, why is the church putting this on? Makes sense why Lincoln Glen Manor would help put this on. The reason is because we care, and we know that this can be a difficult time. So you may be here to learn more for yourself. You may be learn for your parents who are aging, and now you've switched roles with them. You may be here thinking about your spouse who is aging. And so no matter where you're at, we want to support you in this journey. We as Christians, we read that the Bible says to stand up for the presence of the elderly, show respect for the aged. And Jesus also says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. And I know those of you that have been going through this transition may feel a sense of weariness. And so we want you to know that we care in the midst of this. So that's why we're putting this on. And so with that in mind, we're going to get to our panel in a little bit, but I've asked Lauren Croker to come on up here. I'll take that, give that to him. So Lauren's going to join me up here, and we're going to ask Lauren some questions. Lauren's going to, I'll let Lauren introduce his credentials here, but Lauren was executive director at the Manor for quite a while, for 30 years. Here, go ahead, you can pick whatever. Well, we can take a seat. So, yeah.
Sit on the community.
So Lauren, tell us a little bit. You were executive director. Tell us a little bit about your credentials, what you've been through, like what's led you to kind of be here tonight.
Well, more than 30 years ago, I was in staff at the church, and actually it's 34 years ago now. But I was on staff at the church, and they asked next door if I would consider going over there to work with seniors, and I told them not a chance. but they asked 4 times, and then they said, listen to me, I'm your friend, one of them in particular. I know this is the job for you. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. I thought I had my whole life planned out. I didn't have my whole life planned out. My life changed. I started over there next door. I came from here. I was basically the business administration pastor at the church at the time, a little bit of youth. I went over there, and my job changed dramatically. All of a sudden, I was managing. We had an independent living at that point in time. We had what we called an intermediate care nursing facility, but we didn't have any assisted living. We didn't have any memory care. We didn't really have a lot of things that we were offering in independent living. And my job, and it's a God thing, God said, build it. How? And part of my joy in the job was we had to dream about that kind of stuff all the time. That was fun. It was a great thing. And the other thing, I never met somebody on the other side as a senior. I said I would give you 4 years when I started. I'll give you 4 years, and then I'm going to go back into ministry. After the second year, I said, no, I'll stay if you let me, because they're the most wonderful people you could ever work with. They are just absolutely amazing. I mean, at that point in time, we didn't really have skilled nursing. We had intermediate care, which was more like assisted living, a little bit higher level. But the people appreciated what you did. The families were wonderful to work with. The more we added, the more joy I got into it. And so for 30 years, I got the joy of leading the team over there. People say, what's your title? What did you do? I was executive director. But I got to work with, we put together a staff and a group of people next door who care. And that was the thing that was a great deal of joy for me, because they said, that's your job. I said, well, I can't have a better job than that. And so we built assisted living, 31 units of assisted living. We added memory care, then we added more memory care. We turned the intermediate care facility into a skilled nursing facility, and now we are senior. Everybody living over there is 65 or older, which was the model for the church. The church actually bought this land with the intention of building a senior citizens facility right next door. And they said, we're going to pray about it, and we're going to start it. We're going to do everything we can to get it going, and then we're going to let the board, which comes from the church, lead it. And that's exactly what's happened. So that's been the joy of my life. Now I'm the chaplain, which means I get to go back to my old roots, which is what I did before I started doing that. And it's a lot of fun. Being with the seniors, this is less pressure, more fun as a chaplain. But I enjoy it. I love it. So
That's great. So one question that people wrestle with, whether for their spouse or for themselves or for their parents, is when is it time to begin considering a safer, more social, more secure living arrangements, and what options are available when people are thinking about it might be time to take the next step?
yeah, and you put a mouthful of words in there. All of them almost mean something different. Safe, more secure, more social, and almost everybody that comes there is looking for a percentage of that somewhere. I want more social, I want safe, and so, everybody's situation is a little bit different. But, when you start, everybody says, this is what, I went to one of these classes just recently, and the person stood up and said, first thing you do is you go to the doctor. That's not a bad goal. Not a bad goal at all. Dr. C's with us. I know how much he works with seniors. I would recommend you go. Not every doctor, though, is familiar with all the kinds of things that are tied to aging. So you want to talk to somebody who understands that and understands it pretty well. And you may want to have a private conversation with that doctor before you bring your loved one into that. But when things start happening, I made a whole number of lists, but everybody's different. But you can look at, is your loved one falling? I guarantee you, if you think they fell once and they have bruises on their leg or their shoulders, on their arms, anywhere else, it's more than once. And then you got to evaluate, take a look at where they live and say, is there something that they're tripping over? Maybe they can't see. It might be simple to solve this problem, but it may be more difficult. And there may be things that you need to do. So if you're falling, seeing things, here's the classic. How do you have a bruise? Mom, you have a bruise on your arm or your shoulder, or heaven forbid, the side of the face. And you say, what happened? Did you fall? Oh, no, I didn't fall. They are amazing they will gather everything together, and the energy will come out of them, and they will stand up in front of you like they used to do 40 years ago, and they'll twirl around, and you're going to go in the other room, and they're going to collapse. They want to do that. Nobody wants to admit those kinds of things, but you got to look for that kind of thing. If they're taking medications, are the medications being taken the way they're supposed to? I'm telling you, count pills. Absolutely count pills. One of the number one reasons senior citizens end up in a hospital is because they messed up their medication. And some of these medications that they take are extremely potent. And it's maybe they're not taking enough. Maybe they're taking too much, which is generally worse, but not always. And you want to look for things like that. If you see something that you should know your parents, if it's your parents or your loved one or your husband or your wife, whatever. You know them better than anybody else. Look at the things that just suddenly start to break down and start to ask questions. That doesn't mean everybody needs to rush to a higher level of care, but it means you need to start thinking about something like that because there may be a problem. And the worst thing to do is to wait until the end, until something really bad happens, because that's usually when the decision is made. In 30 years next door, it wasn't unusual for me to get 4 or 5 requests a week. This happened. This disaster happened. This is the first time. And I'd ask and I'd say, are you sure it's the first time? Well, I haven't been there in 2 months or a month or 3 weeks or whatever it is. But, how many, most recently I was involved again with it. So somebody asked me the question. I said, how many bruises does she have? I don't know. You need to find out. Take a look. I mean, you don't need to do a body inspection, but it's pretty simple to find. Is she falling? Is that the problem? Because that's what you think the problem is. And if that's what you think the problem is, it probably has been for some time. We generally are a little bit farther behind. And, when you start to see that, then that becomes something that if you have other brothers and sisters or other people in the mix, you need to start having a conversation. Don't do it at the table with mom there or dad there, or your husband there. Do it when they're not there, and see if anybody else is picking up on that too. I mean, those are the kinds of things that happen. The other thing, we always think about dementia and forgetfulness, and you generally in today's world have a pretty good idea when dementia is striking somebody you love, and you will notice things. That's when you want to talk to a doctor, and maybe Dr. C can answer more questions about that. I talk to Dr. C all the time. He's my doctor, so I can recommend him, not just because he's a really good doctor, but I picked him personally for myself. And they can say, well, are you noticing this or that? And start to have those conversations. Have them not necessarily with all of the people present, but you want everybody who's going to be evaluating this to be looking for the same thing that you are. It's not unusual to have mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or your husband or your wife, having struggles, and you think there's a problem, and you bring it up, and somebody else in the family says, oh, absolutely not. Nope, don't have it. No, I don't see that at all. Are you looking? Are you really looking? And that's the important thing, is to be willing to really look and be willing to ask questions. Because if you notice something that seems out of whack, classic. I can say this now, my father's passed away since the 90s. The hardest thing in the world was to take his keys. Now, my dad, that was 1994, so that's before I really started working there. But, my dad was a wonderful guy. I love him dearly. They adopted me and gave me a wonderful home. My dad did not want to give up the keys to his car. Just not give up the keys to his car. And I said, Dad, you park by Braille. You drive forward until you bump a bumper, and you drive backwards until you bump a bumper, and then you go a little bit out and until you bump a bumper, and then you back up. I said, do you realize what you're doing? Well, I don't feel it. And I said, you didn't feel that? No, I didn't feel that. I thought, well, that was unique. But I did. So I got out and showed him, and he looked at that, and we talked about it. It wasn't until he almost had an accident on Cherry and Foxworthy over there that he stood at the car, parked his car on the side of the road, stood at the car and looked at it and started to cry. He said, you've been telling me, he called me, got a hold of me. I had a very early cell phone. He called and said, can you come? And I said, sure. I dropped it. I was working here anyway, so I took off. He was in tears. He says, I didn't see the other car. And the car came all the way down the street. I don't know how I couldn't have seen the other car. And I'd been trying to take his keys for almost 6 months. And he pulled in his pocket, pulled out his keys, and dropped them in my hands. Then I started to cry because I knew how much that meant to my dad. But I realized that he was noticing that there was a problem. Now, they already lived at the manor. We didn't have assisted living at that point in time. One of the reasons I built it, I say that selfishly, one of the reasons I built assisted living was for my parents. Neither of them made it. I didn't build it in time. But, we built that because I knew that people were dealing with that kind of need. And we were able to meet that kind of a need for lots of people since. So, those kinds of things have those conversations. They're not fun, but have the conversations. If you think it's there, it probably is. And if you see forgetfulness, classic. This just happened 2 years ago in one of our cottages. Somebody who we were questioning whether they should still be in independent living or not, left their stove on with a plastic dish on top. Well, how long is it going to take to have a fire? Not long. Now, we have a nice fire system, so they immediately got notified. Boom, everybody was there. We went there. We caught it before anything happened. But that's an indication that she didn't know what she was doing. And she lost control. And what I found out by looking through her drawers and cabinets is there were 4 things like that had been melted or burned. So there was a problem that was going on that was repeated, and we needed to help her. So those are the kind of things to look for.
That's helpful. And so I think I'll just throw this out because it's going to be hard to answer this now, but Lauren is an expert in navigating insurance issues. And so there's too many to go through here, but if you're navigating, hey, insurance says we have to do this, doesn't seem right, I encourage you, come talk to Lauren because he can help you navigate through that kind of stuff. So, so let's take this scenario.
Let me talk to you one thing about insurance.
Yeah.
Know what the insurance the loved one has now, whether it's your father, mom, whatever, uncle, aunt. Find out what kind of insurance they have, and if they're going to go live somewhere, make sure they have the right kind of insurance that they can use their insurance and stay where they're at. Medicare A and B are the best ones out there. You got to have a Medigap plan, but they give you the most flexibility in using. They're the most expensive, but they give you the flexibility in using your benefits. Medicare Advantage plans, they make money off of your Medicare. So, the whole goal is to not give you as much so that they make some more. Now, they're not trying to take advantage of everybody, but that's how the system works. So, there are some plans that will accept some facilities and not other ones. So you want to ask, which insurance carrier needs to be there? If you're going to go to Lincoln Glen Manor, then we have an agreement with Kaiser, and we have a basic agreement with a couple of other ones that are minor ones. But it's hard for us to get contracts with Medicare Advantage companies, and that's just honest. Everybody comes to me and says, we want to have your 5-star building on our plan, which I would say, great too. We want you to give us 20 beds. Okay, I don't have 20 beds. I have 59 beds. I give you 20. How do I operate my business? I can't do that. I'll negotiate 5 with you. It's not my problem anymore. It's now Brad's. But it's the situation is they're looking for big things, and so they're actually trying to hook up with larger facilities that have more beds and probably maybe not the 5-star level. I had a conversation with one just the other day. All of our facilities are 5-star. And I said, and you're with who? And they said, they gave me the name. I'm not going to tell you, but they gave me the name. After I stopped laughing, I said, the highest rated facility that you have is a 3-star? 2 of them are 2 stars. 1 of them is a 1-star. How do you know that? I can go to the Medicare website just like anybody else. I just happen to spend a lot of time there, so I know some of that stuff. But it's, so you want to be careful. Make sure that you're getting what you want. And I don't have business cards here, but you can get my information next door. I don't mind getting a call in the middle of the night. I'm at the hospital with my mom, and they're telling me something that I don't understand. I'll be glad to help you work through that, because there are some questions and there are ways to get answers. And it's important, because it's hard. It's always a stressful situation when you're in a hospital and you're trying to get care. Sometimes through certain Medicare Advantage plans, you have to have things pre-existing or pre-approved. Well, kind of hard to do once you're in a hospital. It takes a little while. You got to work it through. So get some help. You can call. I'm a person you can call. I'm here 3 days a week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd be happy to help you. I also carry a cell phone literally 24 hours a day. That was part of my job next door. I haven't learned how to not do that. So, I get calls. I get calls all the time. And you need somebody to not advocate for you. Somebody else can't speak for you. But there are some magic words that you can say that make the insurance companies say, oh, this person maybe knows something about this. You don't have to know. You just have to act like you do and have the right words. Medicare is there to take care of your loved one, and even if it's Medicare Advantage. But sometimes it's a little bit harder than others, so you got to ask the questions and learn what they are.
So I encourage you to get to know Lauren if you don't, because I have seen this happen where someone is not getting back to where they want to go, and all of a sudden Lauren says, say this, and they do, and then they end up in the place that's right for them. And so Lauren's a great resource. Lauren, I'm going to invite you to stay up here. I'm going to invite the rest of the panel to come up. I'm going to invite Evelyn to introduce our panel in just a minute. But as our panel, I'll give this to Evelyn, thank you. As our panel comes on up, this will just help the panel. So this is just a quick little get to know you a little bit, and this will help them as they try to answer questions for you. So if you are here to learn about you're helping take care of your parents, you just raise your hand if you're here to help take care of your parents, all right? Are you here to help take care of a spouse that's aging? All right. And then if you're here just learn for yourself or any other reason, that's the rest of you, by the way. So, all right, that just helps us kind of understand where everyone's coming from here. Okay, well, I'm sitting here. Okay, Evelyn, if you could go through, help introduce everybody, and then we will take questions. We have some questions also up here as well.
Okay. Hi, everyone, again. So we thank you so much, Lauren. Can we give Lauren a round of applause? Yes. Yes, and once again, he's a great resource to go to for insurance. We also have another resource out there. MC Insurance is in the house as well. We are here for you guys, and as is each one of these individuals up here. So I'm going to start on my right, your left here. This is Michelle Lang. She is, give it up for Michelle. She's here with Powerback Rehabilitation Services. They are actually housed right next door in the manor, and they help people get their power back, right? And this is Dr. Daniel C. Dr. Daniel C., everyone. He is our medical director over at Lincoln Glen Manor. And then you all know Tyler. He introduced himself. I'm going to not block you. Lauren, we just met Lauren, our former executive director at Lincoln Glen, and our current chaplain. And give it up for Lauren. And then this is Brian Schwadka. He is with Stay or Go Homeowner, and he is actually a specialist as well as a realtor in everything that you need to know about your relationship with your home, what to do with it, how to proceed forth. He has much more behind the scenes, guys, so pick his brain, okay? And then there's Diane Eldridge. She's our former assisted living administrator, as well as our current, she directs our memory care support group and our grief share. Yes. Give it up for Diane. And then Melissa Docock, she's a new addition to the Lincoln Glen family. She's our executive director for assisted living, memory care, and independent living. So give it up for Melissa. Thank you. I'm going to be roaming around with a microphone, and at this time, we are going to take questions.
Yes. So anytime, if you have a question, please just raise your hand. Evelyn will come to you. We'll kick it off with this question. So we talked a little bit about making the transition. So a lot of people aren't ready necessarily to get into a place like the manor or any other facility necessarily right away. Some people want to do in-home care. So what are some options for in-home care? What does in-home care look like? So we got microphones. Dan, I think you got one next to you, Brian. So just feel free to pass the microphone, whoever's ready to share about in-home care.
Do we have an in-home care provider here?
No. All right, you got it.
So, in-home care, you can request from a doctor for home health services. So you can get physical therapy, occupational therapy, home health nursing, those kinds of things if it's appropriate for your family member to be at home and it's safe. The doctor can order it. It can be from your primary care physician after a hospital stay, all of those kinds of things. Yeah, and in-home care support, you can also qualify for IHSS, which is a state-paid caregiver program, and they will assess you for as many hours as you need, and they can provide that. Or you can hire someone through any of the excellent home care companies out there, and there are resources in assisted living, there's resources in skilled nursing. If you want pamphlets, I think we all have them.
That's great.
You get them on the internet too. I mean, there's lots
I'll give you a more informal answer. Based on my experience with my mom, who was living in the manor but needed some assistance, not full-time. So I just hired through one of the agencies that's available. I interviewed 3 of them and then picked one to come in. They came in 4 hours in the morning. They helped her get up, get dressed, get showered, and showered first and then dressed, and then fixed breakfast and helped her clean up dishes and things like that. So rather than going through her doctor, I just contacted them directly.
All right.
So I'm helping homeowners decide if they should stay in their homes and age in place with in-home care services, or should they make a transition to a retirement community? And that's a tough decision, and we get paralysis of analysis, and we're 50% on the fence. We say, we're fine at home, it's cheap at home, I like everything at home, I don't want to go anywhere, I don't want to lose my independence, so I'm just going to have this in-home care in my home, which is great, and it's a wonderful service that's available to us. But I've found, I'm not going to badmouth in-home care services, but it's the largest growing industry in the United States right now is caring for these 10,000 people who are turning 65 every year, or every day, I'm sorry, because all of these baby boomers are happening. So the in-home care industry is a bit overwhelmed, and they have a high turnover rate, and you might not get somebody, and 50% of the time they might not even get back to you, and there's safety concerns, and there's things like that. So it's a wonderful thing to have up until a certain point. Once you get to, let's say, needing 3 hours a day or 6 hours a day, we're talking about $50,000 to $100,000 a year of cash flow that you have to have, and a lot of us are house rich and cash poor, and they don't have that cash flow to pay for the in-home care. And so then we need to start thinking, what's our future look like? Where do we want to go? And we need to start putting that plan together, because the number one thing that our number one goal, if I had a genie wish and I only had one, it would be to not outlive my funds. And I need to decide, am I not going to outlive my funds staying in my home paying for in-home care, or am I not going to outlive my funds going to a retirement community? So you really need to start digging deeper and peeling back the layers of the onion to say, can I afford to stay, or should I go? So that's kind of my bag and things like that. I love the in-home care industry. It's just very volatile right now.
Brian, while you have the microphone, I think you'd be helpful with this. So San Jose's changing all the time with rules. I know there's been recent past year or so rules about ADUs. Do you see that as an option for mom and dad coming or whoever might be? What's going on with San Jose? What do you see going on with ADUs?
Yeah, well, they're making rules to where you can have multiple properties on a lot. And so they're trying to smash a bunch of people into a small place. And you're thinking to yourself, well, if I'm a kid and I want my mom and dad to be close to me, and maybe I'll kind of help out with the in-home care. Maybe we'll build an ADU in the backyard, and maybe they'll be happy. But you have to think also, not only do we not want to outlive our funds, but we don't want to burden other people, and we don't want to be isolated. And so even if I'm in my ADU in the backyard and my kids are working, I'm still sort of isolated all by myself, and I am sort of burdening the kids. And so there might be a better option as to going somewhere where you will be less isolated, and you will not burden the kids as much, and you're going to be around like-minded people in a community where they are built and staffed for your health, your social, your convenience, your security, and things like that. So I might sound like I'm a Lincoln Glen or a retirement community, pro-retirement community, but I always say to myself, if I want those three wishes, the not outlive the funds, not burden other people, and not be isolated, is that going to happen in my home, or is that going to happen at a retirement community? And I think you'd be probably a little bit better off at a retirement community where everything is right there for you and the community is built for you and you're around like-minded people. So anyway, did that answer your question?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
If the honest answer, somebody asked me that question, should I find a place to live? And I said, I don't think you honestly need that yet. I think with a little bit of help, you could stay home. Sure. And that, I can't tell you, well, how long, the first question out, how long will that last? I said, we don't know. But that's something that we can play with. Particularly for women, one of the most important things is to stay in their home. And so if you can honor that in some way, you bless their lives and you may bless yours. There's lots of types of, another place you can hire people is, even a facility like Lincoln Glen or facilities around us have staff that only working part-time, and have people come in. You can hire them to come in, and the struggle that you have with that is get to know the people first. This is, when you bet on somebody to come in and they don't show up, that's a disaster, or it can be a disaster. And the beauty of having a home care agency generally is they have somebody to back that one up. Not always now, because it's a short staff. It's difficult for them to do it. But the other, what do you do in a community when you say, what does a community mean? There is nothing that's growing around here like senior living. You see the signs, senior living. Well, I look at most of the signs that say senior living are really right now dementia facilities. They're building a brand new dementia facility, finished it here. You got one on Branham and Almaden, which just sold for $103 million. That property was worth a lot, $103 million. But those specifically to do, in that case, they're dealing with assisted living and dementia care. It depends. You got to look for things. There's independent living. There's independent living that's supported by the county, and you can get information from community care licensing and other places where in downtown San Jose where they can give you a list if that's what you're looking for. But the thing is, they're usually just a unit by themselves. The assisted living, the big, huge 3-story, 4-story buildings that are going up around here are generally senior living, but primarily assisted living. That's for RCFE. It's Residential Care Facility for the Elderly. That's what that stands for. And that can include dementia care. So most of them are what they call memory care facilities. So they can handle you if you're in assisted living level. They can handle you if you're dementia care. But they can only handle one aspect of that. So you have one group that says we can do independent living. The next one says assisted living and dementia care. And then there's skilled nursing out there. There are some, every time you have to move to a higher level of care, you're looking for another facility. That works. Lots of people do it. There are facilities like Lincoln Glen here, and there's a couple in Los Gatos. There's one in Los Altos that are what you call CCRCs. That's a continuing care retirement community. And most of those you pay quite a bit of money up front, and you still pay rent and everything else, but they take care of you for your life. And it's what they call life care. It's a life care contract. So you don't have to move. You might have to move from one building to another, but you can stay on the same property and do the same thing. That's what we are next door. When Lincoln Glen Manor, when we talk about it and we put them together, there's a reason why we're together. This entire property was purchased with the intention of building a church and a senior citizens facility next door. That's why it was purchased. That was the vision of Lincoln Glen Church. Now, none of those people are alive today, but that was their vision. And so, that's why we're next door. That's why we are doing what we're doing with continuing care. And I'll tell you one difference, and it's not a sales pitch, it's just a fact. We are a different kind of continuing care community because there's no upfront fee. You can live in our situation. You can sign a life care contract with us, or type of life care contract. We will do our level best with everything within our power to take care of you for the rest of your time as a senior, and you don't have to plunk down $550,000 or 600 or 400 or whatever that. You know, we don't, and the reason that we do that isn't because we're trying to give people a deal. It's because the people who designed this and dreamed this up, I could give you their names. Some of them are listed on that plaque right back there. But, you know, they dreamed this up and they said, we don't want to ever charge an entrance fee. And so you can't, in the founding documents, you can't charge an entrance fee. I have lots of people that tell me that's the stupidest thing because you could be sitting on a pile of money. But, you know, you're sitting in a church, so I can be God-centered. We believe that God wants us to operate that and wants us to operate as fairly as we can for the people who are there. And so we believe in that. So that's the difference. Now, people can live there. They don't have to move. They can start an independent. They can move to assisted. If they need dementia care or memory care, we have that. And if they need skilled nursing, we have that. That's beautiful. Now they're talking about adding a couple of other things. I don't know if that's really going to happen yet or not, so I better shut my mouth. But, you know, that's the beauty of what we're doing. All of those things can be located on a single campus, and we are not the only one. There's Terraces of Los Gatos. There's Terraces of Los Altos. There's a number of those that are out there. Most of them have a large charge to move in. We don't, because they said no, which I think was wonderful on their part.
All right. At any time, if you have questions, you can interrupt. We'll keep asking questions here, but anytime, just raise your hand. Evelyn will come to you. Yeah, right in the back.
What would you say the range is for assisted living in San Jose in a facility like yourself, like your facility here?
Melissa, do you want to tackle that one? Here, can you?
Go ahead. Melissa, she can tell you assisted living right here. She's the administrator.
Are we talking about price-wise or like acuity of care?
For assisted living, I would say, and then also memory care.
Okay, so
Cost.
our assisted living cost for room and board starts at $7,500. So we're about average with the current communities around us. Our care is on the lower side. Care starts roughly around $3,000 for one person assist. Part of that is because, like Lauren said, there's a lot of founding rules for us, but also because Lincoln Glen, part of our mission is making sure that senior living is affordable for seniors, because we know that not everybody has thousands, millions of dollars to support their care. So we do everything possible to ensure that we can support our residents and make senior living affordable. Our memory care starts at $8,500 for room and board, and then care starts at $3,000 as well. So most of our residents begin around the $10,000 to $11,000 for care. Again, no community fee, no additional costs unless we're doing supplies, and then care is always paying for what you need. So we don't nickel and charge per pill for medication management. We charge a full program price for medication management, whether you have one medication or 20 medications. And again, it's all just to make sure that senior living is affordable for our seniors.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
To
Are there any
follow
more
up with
questions
that,
on the floor?
Melissa, so if you go to facility, you're asking these questions, you're getting numbers, can you really compare those numbers? Or sometimes you're going to see, hey, actually they're not including some stuff. This is actually going to be more than what I'm being told. Can you just guide us through that a little bit? Because I think that follows up to the question here.
Sure. So when you go to a senior living, it's very important to ask them exactly what is included. Many communities are going to have a community fee or a buy-in fee. They're going to have your room and board fee, and then you want to know how are they going to charge you for care. Is it a la carte? Is it going to be levels of care? Is it tiers? Those things can range from anywhere from, you know, a couple $100 up to an upward of like $8,500 a month. So those are some very important factors to consider. You can also have things added on to your bill for extra housekeeping, medication supplies, if the community's buying your medication. behavior management. You want to ask those questions of what is included in those specific care tiers. Lincoln Glen, again, does everything where it's almost sort of like an all-inclusive. If you're getting dressing assistance, it's all assistance with dressing, grooming, all grooming. Housekeeping is a standard housekeeping, whether you're getting your room clean 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So those are some just things to keep in mind.
Okay. Yeah, anytime, raise your hand, everyone will come to you. Dr. C, let me ask you. So you've, as a doctor, I'm assuming there's times where you've had to say, I think the keys are going away. So can you help? That's just, I know one thing that people really wrestle with, Lauren mentioned with his dad. What are things that you are looking for when you say, I think it's time to hang up the car keys, or maybe some other things that you've seen that you have to help people navigate? I think maybe this activity we need to think about, rethink doing this.
Absolutely. Dementia is a very complicated diagnosis. It's multifaceted. Sometimes it's confused with acute delirium. So when a person sometimes is in the hospital because of a UTI or pneumonia, or they had surgery, they have a temporary or transient alteration in their mental status, confusion and hallucinosis, and that's delirium. And when we're talking dementia, we're talking about something that's long-term, insidious, progressive memory loss, especially short-term memory loss, impaired cognition, poor judgment, confabulation. So sometimes, I have my own parents at a certain, when they develop dementia, they can fool you. They can converse with you fairly normally, and they confabulate. And how was your day today? Oh, I went to the supermarket and they had this sale on such and such, and but it's all just a big fib. And I think many of you probably already have caught onto those sort of symptoms. First we have to establish the diagnosis of dementia. There's many kinds of dementia. We know primarily of Alzheimer's dementia. That's because of plaques, amyloid plaques that are deposited on the brain cells. And there's Lewy body dementia, which is a different type of protein, and it's actually diagnosed by autopsy postpartum. There is dementia related to having a stroke. So there's large stroke affecting certain parts of your brain, which knocks out your memory or knocks out your cognition or your speech, and all about that. And there's also microinfarcts, persons with high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. You don't see a major damage, focal area of damage in the brain, but you see slow degradation of the brain. Brain actually starts shrinking. That's from microinfarcts. Again, long-term diseases like high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. There's also other issues like falls. Lauren talked about falls, traumatic brain injury, concussions, post-concussive injuries. So we have to distinguish between all those. And people with Parkinson's and other neurologic diseases, people with Parkinson's almost invariably develop dementia over time, almost 100%. And so when you suspect these things, talk to your primary care doctor, ask for a referral to a neurologist, or have them do a CT scan or MRI. Sometimes we see people with mental status changes. They have had a bleed in their brain. It's subdural hematoma. They hadn't realized it. Make sure their vision is okay. Make sure they're not suffering from hearing loss, because sometimes that can exacerbate dementia. Now, I was just talking to Lauren about some of the causes. Number one is, I had to say this, but lack of early education. So when people are educated at early stage in life, they have a large cognitive reserve, and so they can sustain a lot of insults to their brain and they can still function. But then in midlife, there's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, things like that, that slowly wear away your brain cells. And then later on in life, and this is where we talk about assisted living, memory care, and so forth, social isolation. That is very, very difficult to remedy. And I think at that point, that's what we should step in as children and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, it's about time. And, and your primary care doctor actually can legally contact the DMV and take away the keys and so forth, and you might want to ask your PCP to step in. But yeah, we're under some obligation as children to say, hey, dad, mom, it's time.
I have a question for Doctor. I know you guys had brought up some of the in-home care, right, and some of the private caregivers as well as home health. But I think one thing that was overlooked was hospice. In your opinion, when is the right time to get hospice involved?
Well, hospice is a very, very personal choice. You have to be ready, and you have to pretty much know that your parent has less than 6 months. And that's one of the criteria for hospice. There's many disease processes that qualify someone for hospice, including end-stage dementia. But you have to be really ready. Because once you enroll a person in hospice, I used to be a hospice medical director, by the way, about 20 years ago. But when you enroll someone in hospice, you really have to be ready to let go.
Forgive this interruption. How are you guys doing out there? You guys good? How's the heat? Okay, I'm going to open this side door. We're going to continue on with questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what are some, and Michelle, maybe you might be a good person for this, so everyone can jump in. What are some things that people can do preventatively to kind of, as they age, help them so that as they get older, they're physically more ready for it? Or some of the things that they can do, hey, maybe I didn't do that, but I'm here now. What are some things that they can do to get their power back, if you will? So.
Get their power back. That's my company's name, not me. Staying physically active is so important. So I'm a physical therapist. So the most important thing in the elderly population is balance. Strength, but balance. Balance is one of the first things to go, and that's why falling is one of the reasons people go to the hospital, people break things. Balance is the thing that I would say is a main focus, but also going to exercise classes with people. Going to group exercise classes, finding people you like to go on a walk with. Walking is such a great activity. Walking backwards, this is a really big tip. Walking backwards will do you so much good. Walking backwards, sideways, forward, but not just forward. So with your friend, holding their hands, walking backwards, walking sideways, kind of doing a little bit of a dance, that's gonna keep your balance, your social activity, all of those things. Anything that can keep you happy, And I think that if you start to feel weak and something feels wrong in your body, the best thing you can do is contact your PCP and ask for physical therapy. Ask for occupational therapy. Once you notice something is getting harder for you, you can't walk around the block anymore. You notice your parent can't walk around the block anymore. You notice they can't put their shoes on and bend over. Something's hurting, they're weak, they're losing their balance leaning forward. Any of those little things can make a big difference. You need to contact your doctor. You need to be there and listen because those tiny things make a big difference.
Great, thank you. Anytime, raise your hand. Evelyn wants to get her steps in. She'll walk backwards to you. So just ask a question so she'll walk backwards to you.
I'll do the moonwalk.
There we go. So this is probably Diane and Melissa. Anyone can jump in, but how do you help your loved one navigate transitions? Let's say they're in a facility and they're moving, they're transitioning from different levels of care. They're escalating there. How do you personally deal with that as a loved one? How do you help your loved one as maybe I'm not ready to move from independent to assisted or from assisted to skilled? How do we navigate that?
It's a long conversation. You're not going to have the conversation once and your parent or loved one is going to say, oh, you're right. It doesn't work that way. So you start talking about it in the early stages of when you notice differences. And I always encourage people to be respectful while they're talking to their loved one, you don't want to come across as a know-it-all. You want to talk to them about what their needs are, how they're going to get those needs met, offer suggestions that perhaps they could get their needs met by doing whatever, moving. But it's a long conversation, and you want to start early and make sure that you're having conversations with some frequency.
Jimmy, do you want to?
So pretty much just to piggyback off what Diane said is we start those conversations early with families in the assisted living, memory care, and independent living buildings. It's easier to have that conversation when families or the residents know that we're seeing something where there's going to be an increase of care versus springing in on them overnight saying, oh, mom's in independent living and now she needs to be in a memory care community. And the biggest portion of that is educating them on the different environments that are available, the benefits of each environment, so why assisted living may be a better fit for a person than the independent living, because we see somebody that's struggling walking from their cottage or their house to the dining room, or somebody that's maybe forgetting to do laundry or unable to do laundry and they're needing that help. Educating them on how that extra support can be beneficial to them, where it's going to make their quality of life better. But exactly as what Diane said, it's a long conversation. It's not something where you can have that one-day conversation with mom or dad and saying, hey, look, we need to move you in today. That conversation usually happens after there's a traumatic event, such as a fall, a stroke, or a medical need. But the easiest way to go about that is those advanced planning and really looking at all your different options.
Yeah.
So I'm in touch with a lot of the retirement communities in Santa Clara County. I know there's 55 retirement communities in Santa Clara County. Some of them are independent, some of them are assisted, some are memory, some are skilled. Of those 55 communities, only 8 of them are continuing care retirement communities. They're far and few between. And if you're going to have some sort of transition, it's much better for the person that is transitioning to stay at the same campus, the same staff, the same friends, and let's go visit memory care today. Even though you're not going to go, let's just go see what it's like. Let's go see what skilled nursing looks like. Let's go see assisted living. And so when the transition does need to be made, if you're at a community, one of these 8 communities in Santa Clara County that has all 4 levels of care on campus, that transition is going to be much smoother because they need consistency. And if you're going to go to a different community, or if you stay and the spouse goes, that's very traumatic, and it's going to be much more difficult than it would be if you were at a CCRC. So I'm very CCRC, or continuing care retirement community centric. So anyway, something to think about.
That's great. That's great. A couple more questions. Any questions out there before we ask a couple more questions? All right. You'll have a chance. You can ask questions afterwards as well. Let me change it a little bit here because there's so many more questions we could ask. And this to anybody here. One thing that we see is that as people get older, they kind of feel like I can't do the things I used to do, and with that can come this lack of purpose that they feel in their life. How do we help our loved ones realize they're still loved and valued, and that they still do have a purpose? This is, a little different. It's not medical, it's not, but so just some insight. How do we help them that they do feel loved, valued, and have a purpose in life? It's a hard, deep question, so go ahead, Brian.
All right, I can't stop talking. It's the isolation thing. It's a huge worldwide epidemic, this isolation thing. It's a physical issue, it's a mental issue, it's a cognitive issue, and you do lose purpose when you're all alone in your home, not talking with people. I talked to my mom the other day. She says, I didn't talk to anybody yesterday. And so if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And if you don't have people around you that can add purpose, and you can add purpose to them, and you can start helping them, and you start getting that purpose because you have more opportunities because you're in a community. And so I just think it's hard to have purpose when you're all by yourself, unless you're going to church, of course we've got purpose there. But you gotta be around more people. I mean, I know you say, I'm fine here. It's fine, I've got everything under control. I do Zoom and the kids come over and I go to a class every now and then, but it's not all the time. And I just think being in a community is just a much better place to add purpose to your life and add purpose to other people's lives too.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about is important. When you think about getting your parents or your loved ones involved, one of the things that we see here all the time, we have a full activity program, we have all kinds of things, but getting people to the activities is hard. What does the average senior citizen do?
Jeopardy.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, I used to, when I started next door, I laughed because I thought it was funny, and then I thought, wait a minute, it's not funny, it's sad. At 7 o'clock every night, I could walk down the hallway, and everybody was watching the same television show. Oh, yeah, it's Wheel of Fortune, here it comes. And I could go from one door to another, to another, to another wheel. I'm just so sick of that show. But that was their thing. They sit down, I'm going to watch Wheel of Fortune. So I said, you know what we're going to do? Let's get a big screen TV. Let's have popcorn and other good stuff, and let's do it out here where everybody can do it. And the funny thing was, nobody came. Because I have a chair that fits my rear end perfectly, and right next to the television, and this is what I'm going to do, Wheel of Fortune. And it took us a long time to get them out and active. When I started, we didn't have activities in independent living because the leading resident said, we don't need activities. I said, you may not, but lots of people do. And it took us a long time to get that stuff started. We had it in nursing, but get them past that. And right now, when somebody comes, the first thing that they do, unless we can break them of the habit, is they want to sit at a table by themselves and have lunch. Bad idea. Because the one thing that everybody will tell you over and over again is, once I opened my life and started to share it with all these people around me, life got to be fun. My mom she was active in this church. I grew up in this church, but she was active. She had lots of friends everywhere, but not during the day. She had this little thing that she would go through. She moved in next door. She started to do everything. And she was the busiest person. She said, I love this. The thing that I love now is I have friends everywhere. And, I watched today, I'm not going to say his name, but I watched today, somebody was having difficulty building relationships with the people around him. Today, at his table, at lunchtime, somebody said something that was extremely funny, and, everybody literally was laughing and having a great time. It lasted the entire lunch period. And I looked at him when he left, and he struggled to walk and did it. But I said, hey, how'd it go? He said, I had a great day today. This is a wonderful day. And all it changed was people talked to each other at the table. And, finding ways for that kind of thing to happen, it makes all the difference in the world for a senior citizen, because their life is, we have studios next door. All the studios have one person in them. And, it's hard to get them past the door to be involved in something. But once they do, that you can't stop them. So that's just a word.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you a little caveat here from the Journal of Gerontology 2021, U.S. Health and Retirement Study, 11,302 patients. Persistent social isolation conferred a 28% increase in mortality, and persistent loneliness increased 57% mortality.
If your loved one is not in a community and they're not able to do the things that they used to do, we have a lot of community centers in this area, and many of them have specifically senior programming. And they can get involved in things that they maybe never thought about, like writing their memoirs or taking an art class or learning new card games. There are many things that they can do even if they're not in a community. And I know in our community there are people that come over and play cards that have never lived there, but they enjoy getting together with our residents and just playing cards.
So that's what I was going to say. If they're not in a community, the best thing you can do for the elderly is maintain a routine. So having something to look forward to in the day. So at 10 o'clock, I'm going to go water my plants. You know, give them something to take care of. A fish, a plant, things that give them joy, that they can watch, that they can do. Also, grandkids. Any kids in the family? Bring kids around. Kids keep everyone young. Kids get you moving. Kids get you happy. They bring you joy. And also giving them something, not just that day to look forward to, but in the future. Hey, in 2 months, we're going to go do this big event. We're going to go to the block party, right? And so we have to get ready, and I'll come over, and I'll help you get ready. We can get dressed up, you know. Just hyping up things a few months down the road will give that person a purpose. Even at the end of the day, hey, we're going to go to dinner. Make sure you're ready. Like, I'm going to pick you up at this time. Anything like that, anything you can do to give that person routine and something to look forward to.
I think
Tyler,
that's
can
great.
I add to that, even though I'm not on the panel? One of the things I just wanted to build on, which great responses, is making sure that all of the things that you are bringing to them are things that are important to them. Oftentimes in our lives, we don't get the opportunity to talk about the things that are important to us. Think about the passions that you had when you were growing up, and think about how distracted you got once you started working. Now think about someone who cares enough to care about what you care about. So making sure that those things are centered on the things that you truly do love, and feeling free to talk about them and rave about them. Compliments go a very long, long way. So I'm not on the panel, so I'm going to shut up and let them ask another question.
That's great. That's great. Can you walk backwards to Larry over there? Or you can walk forwards.
Okay, I agree with everything everybody is saying. I have a brother that I love very much who has real strong social phobias. So when we've had conversations about him and the skilled facility, he needs it medically, he needs it mentally, but when I bring out, and you'll be with, people, and you'll be doing like, well, and when did you think I ever wanted to be with people? In his mind, he doesn't want to be with anybody, and yet I know he's lonely. He does great kind of with one-on-one or with a small group. What suggestions might you have for somebody who has social phobia and there's mental illness involved in getting over the hump here? And yeah, it's a long story.
Let me get real quick. In skilled nursing, for example, and even in assisted living, there's an activity program that's customized to individuals' needs. And so, if there are specific things and they know about them, I know about this specifically because I butted in on a meeting today and they asked me to come talk to them, and this is what they were talking about. How can we make it personal for people who need that? And there are those people who need it. There are people who need groups, and there are people who don't function well in groups, but they need one or two, something to focus on. And that's what you have roughly. Well, your wife used to be in charge of activities over at skilled nursing a long time ago. But they have the freedom and the wisdom to do that, to build systems together. Whether it's assisted living or skilled nursing or memory care, we can adapt for that, and we have the personnel to do that, which is harder to do if you have somebody at home. We have a staff that are there and trained to do that kind of thing. But you can help us a lot by saying, this is something you need to be careful. This is something you need to know. It makes all the difference in the world.
I was going to say something similar, that a good community will respect the individual. So we may offer things to do, but a good community, if that person is not interested, will not badger them.
Just to get even more specific, one of the things he was asking about was what can he do while he's at home? What are some suggestions that you guys have while he's at home?
To do on your own. Personally, I think if someone knows how to do something and they go teach someone else how to do that something, it gives them purpose, and it's It's not like, well, I got to go to this thing that they're putting on. If maybe he could take a little bit of control, if there's something he's really good at, maybe he can help someone else be good at that as well. And at these communities, all of the communities, you could start your own class, your own group. You don't have to go with what they already have. You can make your own class, your own group or whatever. So he could be in charge of his destiny or whatever he wanted to do. Might be an idea.
It's hard, though, if he's at home by himself.
Yeah.
Because you need to add somebody to that equation. You need somebody's involvement needs to be there.
So my suggestion would be, hey, can we try this for 5 minutes? 5 minutes is not going to kill you. Let us try 5 minutes. I promise we'll set a timer. If you are unhappy, we can leave and find something else to do, okay? Also, there's a lot of online communities and things, so whatever speaks to him and that he enjoys doing, you might be able to find something online or something where he can communicate and be part of a community, but still be isolated on his own. Yeah.
Carol.
Yep. I noticed I was sitting in the back and I moved up a little bit here and I'm thinking, I wonder if I'm having a hearing problem because I was straining back there. Is this on? Yeah. So my husband is about 14 years older, and one of our struggles, aside from balance and some falls, I have to stay with him more. Driving, he's fallen asleep at an intersection and then ran into the car in front of him. But the hearing loss is a problem. And I wanted to be a little more aware of the relationship between lack of hearing and cognition, and why he's very resistant, as many I know are, to the hearing aids. They're uncomfortable, they're too small for the men with big fingers, they can't work them. There's earwax issues, they can't clean them. It's an ongoing thing until he just quits wearing them. And then he starts yelling around the house and repeating, and then I start hollering, please quit hollering. It's a real struggle with aging, is that just the hearing. But I'm more concerned about, dementia creeping in sooner with the loss of hearing and not being willing to address it or unable to. Any comment about that?
Certainly that's a big factor. Vision and hearing is a big factor in dementia and progression of dementia. Is your husband being followed by ear, nose, and throat specialists or audiologist? Audiologist for hearing.
No, he has in the past, but that was in relation to sinuses or something else. But he regularly goes to the hearing aid place.
Because there's different types of hearing loss. There's conductive hearing loss and there's neurosensory hearing loss. Yeah.
I can look into that, find out what's going on. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, one just quick practical question because we really want to bless the caretakers. And so it can be hard. I know a lot of caretakers are balancing their children and their parents, or some have even just retired and now they're taking care of their mom and dad and their spouse's mom and dad. What encouragement do you give to caretakers who feel like, I'm overwhelmed? Could be a spouse taking care of her spouse or his spouse. What encouragement do you give? What advice do you give to people who feel a little overwhelmed? They don't feel like they have time to get everything done as they're trying to care and do the rest of their life.
So I would say to loved ones or the actual caregivers is that there's plenty of support out there. One of the big things about us at Lincoln Glen is regardless if you choose our community to place your loved one or to move into, we're always going to be that resource for you. So you can always call us and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need some resources about this topic. Do you have anything? I know there's plenty of different agencies, groups out there, support services such as hospice, home health, companies, home care agencies. There's a lot of support groups that caregivers can reach out to. And just know that the caregiving that you do doesn't go in vain. It's their, mom and dad sometimes may be frustrated about their challenges, their loss of independence, but they are very thankful for that. But it's okay to ask for help. That's the biggest thing is there's tons of support out there, so don't be afraid to ask for that help.
Yes.
There's something called respite care in facilities where they offer if you need a break, because you can't care for your loved one if you're not caring for yourself, right? Like if your tank is empty, you can't do what you need to do for your loved one. You might get frustrated. There's something called respite care. You can reach out to skilled nursing facilities, and they will take your loved one for a couple of weeks if they have an opening. You will have to pay, but it is such a great resource because your loved one is cared for, they're safe, they're getting everything that they need. So if you are really exhausted, that is always an option.
That's great.
And to do that, you need to talk to them ahead of time as much as you can. Because if we get to the point where we're full in skilled nursing, then we can't do that kind of thing. So it helps us to know that maybe in 3 weeks we're going to be looking for 2 weeks of respite care, and talk to the director of nursing, the administrator. You can do that. It's a little harder to do in assisted living, but it's still possible. There are things that can be done. It's just trying to make those arrangements, because it's oftentimes the facility will fill, and so we want to make those plans ahead of time to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Can we thank our panel for their time coming out here tonight? Thank you. Appreciate your expertise and all that you did. You guys can take a seat. Evelyn and I are just going to tell you a few more things as we wrap up here. Thank you so much for coming up. Evelyn's going to tell us, there's a lot of resources in the back. So you can come, and if they have time, you can come ask them some more questions. But there's also even more resources available out there. So Evelyn's going to tell us a little bit about what resources are available out there.
Okay, thanks. Can we give one more round of applause to our panelists? Yeah, thank you so much, panelists, for coming. Each and every one of you are just blessings with the knowledge that you possess. So we want to remind you that outside these doors, there are even more knowledgeable brains out there. Yay! We're here to help. If you are one of our vendors, could you please stand? We have Brian with Stay or Go Home Owners. We have Katie with Helping Hands, Senior Placements Advisors. We also have Gail. She's here with GEM Home Organization. And Kim is here with MC Insurance Services. They're able to, all these people and more are able to help you specifically in your situations. Yeah. Oh, and I thought I said Bristol. I saw Eddie. Oh, my goodness. Poor thing. Eddie is here with Bristol Hospice, everyone. Give it up for Eddie. I am so sorry. So we are very pleased to have all of them. They're here specifically chosen to be able to help you in different seasons of your life. I encourage you to visit each table as you may need them at any given time. Including Lincoln Glen Church and Lincoln Glen Manor also have an information table, so if you'd like to ask us more questions, you're more than welcome to, as well as any of the other panelists that have been here today. Guess what, guys? I've got even more exciting news. We're going to do our raffle! Okay, Tyler has the box of, I don't know, can I say box of magic? Is that weird? Oh, yes, if you have not turned in your raffle ticket, now is the time. If you're not able to move and turn in your raffle ticket, Tyler will come to you. And can we say thank you once again to Katie Cooney from Hand in Hand. They provided the raffle prize for today. Katie, do you want me to describe the basket, or would you like to describe what's in the basket today?
My name is Katie Cooney from Hand in Hand Senior Placement, and I know the sandwich generation very well. I spent 5 hours today at El Camino Hospital with my mother in the ER, and then I raced home at 6 o'clock, and this basket looks a little thrown together because it has been thrown together, and looks like it's gone through the washing machine. But on that note, I am a pre-planner, so I had everything ready to go. We've got a... now don't laugh, it's mostly from Costco. We've got our Pike Place roast from Starbucks, a bag of medium roast, and then some Dubai chocolate, and then some noni biscotti, and a little mug that says happy on it. And because I think there's happiness that we can find in each stage of our life if we know what makes us happy and we engage with the world around us. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity, and I love working with Lincoln Glen Manor.
And we love working with Katie too. Katie has been this blessing that just keeps going, and her heart is so selfless. So we just want to honor her. So we're going to draw for the first prize, which is
Diane Eldridge.
Yes. And is that for the basket or?
That's for the basket.
That is for the basket. Yay, Diane. Woo.
All right.
Okay, we also have a couple of other.
We have one other one, and so being a caretaker or aging, either one makes you tired. So we have some Starbucks gift cards for either way, whatever category you fall into. And so Marge, is Marge here? She's not here? Okay.
She had to leave early.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to give it to her?
Yes, we
All right.
will take it to her at the manor.
We will let her. So give it up for Marge. All right.
Yay!
We want to let you know a few other things. So Evelyn, you got something, and then I'll tell a few things before we head out.
Oh, I was going to, actually, we already said it,
You
so
already
it's
said
totally
it.
fine. Hey.
Okay, great. Just a few other things that we have coming up. Just want to let you know, we are going to do another community forum coming up in a little bit. Oh, we also have support groups that are going on. Diane, who is on our panel, leads a dementia care group, and so it's a support group. If you have a loved one that's going through dementia, it's a great support group for that. For the caregiver, yes, for the caregiver. And it's on Tuesdays. It's still at 1? Third Tuesday of the month, 1 o'clock, the Manor Chapel right over there. If you can't find it, just walk over there and you'll find it pretty quick. You ask someone at the front desk. If you get to the front desk, you were at the chapel. So you'll make it. And also Grief Share. So Grief Share is designed to help those who've lost loved ones. And so we don't want you to have to need this, but at some point we all need this. And so Grief Share is another group that is starting up September 3rd. So next week, next Thursday, it's going to start up 6:30 here at the church. We also, we're going to do another community forum. This may not hit you. We're doing different things, hitting different people. So we are going to talk about parenting in the digital age. So how do I parent my kids in the age of AI and social media and all this kind of stuff? So we're going to have another panel, a different panel to wrestle with those questions. That's coming up on October 28th. And we're having a fun block party. We're not having a panel at this one, just a block party. We have food trucks, bounce houses, treats, games, all sorts of stuff. It's a fun activity. Manor joins us with that, and that's Friday, September 18th, 5 to 8. And then go ahead, Theo. And then, we just really want to support you. We have a community that supports each other every Sunday, and you're always welcome to come join us in that. We're imperfect people that walk together and support each other in that. So just want to invite you into that. And with that, just encourage you to go. As you go from here, if you have questions, please go talk to a panel member who's still here able to answer questions. Go out there, check out some of the resources that are out there. It might be a resource that you need now. It might be a resource that you need in a few months or a year from now. And Sophia, do we have coffee? We have coffee as well. So you can check that out as well. So thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.